All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie, and I have known Pandora for a number of years. Just some backstory of how we even met. Kind of a funny story. We have a mutual friend, and I'll never forget. I was out one night in Chicago with this friend, and I was chatting, and I was going through something in my life, and I was like, "Oh, I really need to like chat with a psychic or like have someone kind of give me some direction." And this friend was like, "Oh my God, Steph, I actually know someone who that's like their job." And I was like, "Oh my God, I wonder if they're free tomorrow at 10 a.m." And so, like, immediately, this friend connected me with Pandora. I'll never forget. It was like on Facebook. I messaged Pandora and I was like, "Hey, are you free tomorrow?" And Pandora's response was, "Yeah, does tomorrow at 10 a.m. work?" And I remember being like, "Oh my God, this is meant to be." Absolutely. Like, I just put that out there and it was message received. And so, that was kind of my first introduction to Pandora as the psychic. And then, I mean, I think we've been friends now for, I don't know, 7, 8+ years. So I started as a client and then quickly became a friend. And now she's just someone that I chat with on the regular about all the things going on. So this is us just, me asking questions that I've always wanted to ask Pandora the psychic and not always Pandora the friend. So we'll see how this goes. Um, so with that, I have listened to some of Pandora's interviews in the past, and I know that she comes from a long line of psychic and channelers in her family, which I think is so, so interesting. And I love the story that her mom used to test her on her way home from school by sending her a list of things to pick up at the convenience store and a way to practice your psychic abilities. So, kind of my first question to you is, what other exercises or things can we do to expand our psychic abilities in our everyday?
Sure, we can look at that, but I want to clarify one thing.
Sure.
So in 2025, sending me a list of things to get at the store could have been like way easier with a cell phone, right? To text.
True.
But she would send it psychically,
Yes,
way
you're right.
before cell phones were even a thing.
You're so
So
right. I
yeah,
wonder
I
if
would
it's
get a
faster
message in
though.
my head. Yeah. So that was one of the things that we would do when I was a little bit older, but when I was younger, a few years before that, we used to sit across from each other and she would think of an object or an item or a color and connect her third eye to my third eye. So focus energy from the center of her forehead to mine so that I could receive what she was sending me. And it's sort of like easy with friends to do this or with romantic partners or someone that you live with. You can practice regularly sending that image and it starts to get clearer because when we're the receiver, when it's the third eye is open and receiving, it's sort of like a movie screen. So if you can visualize a blank movie screen in your mind, when you're working with someone who's sending you an image, you just sort of wait until that image starts to appear. It might be a color or a shape at first. You may not know what it is. It might be kind of a foggy image until you get good at it, but eventually it sort of pops up really quickly. So that's the kind of stuff that I started when I was 4 or 5 years old with my mom and with my grandmother, also with my father. So
Amazing.
that's something I would suggest doing. Um, you can advance it a little bit and you can expand and don't tell the person whether it's a person, a place, or a thing. You can give them a whole concept and see what they come up with. You can create a whole movie in their mind and see how much they're accurate with. So it's pretty cool. That was one of the big ones that we did. Um, I learned how to read playing cards. So working with divination with my grandmother at around age 8 and also with my mom. So you can plug into your intuition through the use of a divination tool. We started with playing cards because they you don't get distracted by pretty images. So tarot cards, images, symbols,
Mm,
playing cards, it's a little bit less than that. It's
yeah.
harder to get distracted with playing cards. They're very direct with the messages.
Especially when you're that age. I can see where you'd be like, "Oh, pretty, the Empress," and then go on a tangent about being, princess or a queen. So that makes sense.
Totally. Yes, yes, yes. So I didn't get into tarot until I was like 17 or 18. And that's when I did a deep dive into tarot. But so anyway, the sending messages back and forth, visual messages, would be a great way to start working with your intuition and connecting with your senses. The other thing that I learned was to connect to your solar plexus, that feeling in the pit of your stomach, right? So your intuition for a lot of people comes through your solar plexus or in your belly.
Mm.
Sometimes we can confuse an intuition with a fear. So learning to tell the difference, that was something that I worked on a lot with my mother. Um, Whether this is your fear voice talking or your intuition talking, because they both can sort of feel like butterflies in your tummy, like it's good butterflies or it's bad butterflies. Have you ever had that happen
Interesting.
where you feel
I,
that sense and you're not sure which one it is?
of course, yeah. I can see how you could almost think like probably because of the doubt that's there that causes the fear.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
exactly.
yeah.
So it's learning to trust the messages and learning to trust the language that you have within you, your intuition and that inner voice. And also knowing that sometimes our inner voice can be a little critical and that we need to kind of push that one side as well.
So interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Um, I guess one question I am curious though, because 4 years old is so young. When you're sitting at the table with your mom, is she like, all right, we're gonna play this game and I want you to think of a screen, or is she just sending this to you and kind of quizzing you? Um, yeah, did she like set the stage with this practice or did she just do it kind of nonchalantly?
It was a little bit of both, actually. So, just like with that grocery list, um, she would do it intermittently to see what I would respond to.
Mm.
Sometimes we would be watching TV together, and she would send me an image or a thought to get up and do something, whether it was get up and go brush my teeth before bed or go get my pajamas on, and I would just get up and do it. And then when I would come back in, she'd say, "Do you know why you did that?" So she wanted me to connect with whether it was something that I intended for myself, an idea that came to me from within, or whether it was something that I felt that was coming from outside of me. So that was another
Whoa.
way of learning the stimulus, learning where the message was
Yes.
coming from.
Wow, that's crazy. I can't imagine. I'm sure my mother would have loved that. She'd been like, "All right, Stephanie, go vacuum." And I'd be like, get up and vacuum me. And even though I'd be like, "Why am I doing this? Like, I don't want to." So I'm sure.
Right, like here I am, I have the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So animals communicate in images, in the same way that we kind of communicate intuitively and energetically. They have the same movie screen in their heads. So it's easy for me to communicate with my pets in the same way that I communicated with my mom and dad and grandmother. So it's kind of cool. It's like
Very cool.
shorthand when you're training a dog, when you send them the visual cue in their head psychically at the same time that you're giving them a command. It
Yeah,
makes
I'm sure too.
makes them move faster.
I always wonder too, like what language does a dog think in? But if they think in images, then it doesn't matter what language, right? Like that would be
Hmm.
universal. So that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, they do think in images. I mean, they do learn the human language that they're in the household of. So, if it's a Russian speaking household, then the dog speaks Russian as well. But they predominantly speak the images,
Wow.
visual. Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
Hmm.
All right, my next question is one that I've just like always wondered, and I think it's a little bit universal, but do you psychics also have a psychic? Like I'm always curious, people go to you looking for maybe some insight, direction, maybe help with what they're going on in their lives, but are you able to do that for yourself, or is it like almost blocked for yourself because you're providing it for others, or how does that work for you?
So most psychics can sense when there's a warning or a danger for themselves, versus seeing the entire picture for themselves. So, and the same thing goes for the people in their immediate environment. So their family members, they know if there's a warning coming up around someone, a danger around someone, but they're not going to plug in the same way to read for them because we're not supposed to. So yes, usually psychics will have someone that they go to when they are really facing a challenge in life or a crossroads and they want to get some information. Also, psychics may choose to go to someone who does a different modality than they do. So if, like in my case, I'm a psychic medium, I do use cards sometimes, but usually I connect with spirit. So I may go to somebody who does astrology or numerology because those are not the things that I utilize on a daily basis to get information. But
Hmm.
I might want to have an insight from that different kind of view, that different kind of language, if something's coming up for me. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
ultimately,
really
like
neat.
we can't see our own life, our whole life picture for ourselves. We're not supposed to, because that could kind of drive you a little crazy, you know?
Absolutely. I also just feel like that takes away from like the living experience for you if you are always know kind of what could happen depending on your choices you make. So yeah.
Exactly. And this sort of, it's a little segue, but when someone goes for a reading, so anybody, whether they're psychic or whether just they're a normal person, if they go to a reader who they want them to tell them their life story, they want to sit down and say, okay, what's coming up for me? That means that they're giving their responsibility completely to the reader. And that's not the way this is all supposed to work, because we didn't come into this life with a specific script that we're supposed to follow. We get to choose and create our own path. So that's why I work with clients a lot on empowerment and helping them to see the things that they can do, that they can create to craft the life that they want, rather than thinking that they came in with this story. So if you ever go to a reader and they're trying to tell you the story of your life, really sit there and listen to it for a minute and say, but wait a minute, this doesn't sound like me. I don't want these things. And who is this person anyway to know me better than I know myself, right?
Yeah, and I always think it's so important to remember that like time is dynamic and things can always change based on the choices we make. So, a reading may be true for this point in time, but if you make a different decision, the whole, trajectory can be completely different too. And so I think folks always need to remember that.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Free will. Free will, you get to make different changes and choices. You get to, even in relationships, love someone for a time, not for an entire lifetime, and that's a hard one too.
Hmm.
You can
Hmm.
see when you outgrow a situation or a relationship, and that maybe who you were in the past, you didn't know that it was only going to be 6 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. But now you're there and you're at that crossroads and you get to choose again and choose better this time.
Always. I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? The ability to choose. So,
Mm-hmm. Totally.
okay, my next kind of question really stems from, the hype of social media, TikTok. I feel like every other person I get on TikTok is always a tarot card reader or someone talking about astrology or soul ties or all these different kind of buzzwords. And I think the one that always gets used incorrectly is the twin flame. So I guess my general question for you is like, what is a twin flame? How likely is it that we'll find a twin flame? Like, I always think it's going to be incredibly rare that it's someone that shares a soul and that's like split into two, and that's what makes it the twin. But if you could just provide any sort of insight, maybe break some myth busters when it comes to twin flame, since it's always such a buzzword on the social media platforms.
Oh, yes. So there's a few things that people sort of reframe a twin flame into being like the ultimate relationship. And it's not really the ultimate relationship. So the idea is that it is a soul that is split into two bodies. What I grew up knowing is that this soul that was split into two bodies means that this soul is in its last incarnation on planet Earth, the last time that you're going to need to be in a body. So that means that your soul, this soul that is split into two bodies, has learned all of its lessons. has achieved everything it needed to achieve on the earth plane and will then move on to soul growth in the great beyond, okay? Not needing to come back into a body, because ultimately here on earth, this is our classroom and we have to slow down to be here and we have work to do. But when we move into soul form, things go faster. Things are easier and they're not bogged down by all of this literal gravity, right? So, twin flame, when you do find one, if you do find one, my belief is that that's the last time that you are here. It also doesn't mean that that's the best relationship of your life. It means that you're going to be faced with all of your lessons unlearned that come out in the form of that other person. It's like a mirror to everything that is not completed yet, right? Doesn't sound
Mm,
so fancy and sparkly, does it?
no. Yeah.
Um,
A walk in the
so
park, right? Because they always think like that's the ultimate, finding your twin flame, like that's what you should be striving for. But it might
yeah,
actually be very challenging and maybe disappointing once you get there, to be honest.
yeah, that's like a really pointy needle in the haystack, okay? So, like, and the same thing goes like with twin flames and soulmates. Just because we believe them to be these things does not mean that it also equals blah, 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 sorry, romantic relationship. A twin flame can be a family member. It can be a boss. It
Mm,
can be a friend. So it doesn't, it's not guaranteed that it will be a romantic relationship. Same goes with soulmates. We can find people who are not attracted to us, who have all of the things that we need. We feel amazing with them. It's a completed circle with this person, except not the passion part. So people get really confused, and it's nice to think, okay, I'm going to read this description that sounds wonderful in a book, and now I'm going to need to find this person. And until I find this perfect one, I'm not going to be happy. And so it makes love and romance very tough. And
hmm.
it's tough even without those titles, right?
Yeah. Yeah, very much
So
so.
um I always think about bringing people back to the reality, right? Let's ground your energy. You want to find someone who's a good person, who's compassionate, who's giving and loving, who reflects the energy that you bring into the relationship, and find someone who you feel safe with, you know. Those are the keys, you know,
Yeah.
to a happy life, happy partnership, right?
Yep.
So twin flame, people have definitely different opinions about it, but mine is that it's you're shooting for something that you might not actually want.
Hmm.
So wish for the real things, the tangibles, and remember that universe will bring you what you are wishing for and hoping for, and you can say, I want this or better. So create a list of the things that the characteristics that you want in a partner, and ask for that list or better for you. And that way, you're going to have a really great relationship coming to you, rather than shooting for something that is going to ultimately bring in a lot of painful lessons and
Hmm.
frustration.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that you said that really stuck with me is the idea of finding someone that makes you feel safe. I think that is something that we always overlook, to be honest, and that's really an important piece to any sort of relationship. So I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. And I wrote a book called Finding the Missing Piece Inside. And
Mm,
I talk in that book about connecting with not only what you were taught about love, what you experienced about love around you as a child, the relationships of your parents, the people around you, the friendships that you saw, how people treated each other, and understand that that missing piece is not actually another person. It's up to you to create the whole puzzle of you and to be the best version of you so that you can attract a person who has also done the same thing. Because you don't want someone who's coming forward with an empty spot that you need to fill,
hmm.
or one that they need to fill for you, because then, it's not a whole life. It isn't, because then you're going to be attached to this person and needing them and feeling like if they go away, you don't know how you're going to live, right? Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
absolutely.
Yeah. So we sort of got a little away from the twin flame thing, but I
You know
think
what
that
though?
helped.
Yeah, it's all good because I think those buzzwords all still are all present on social media all the time. So it's a good reminder regardless. Um, I think the last question I'll ask for this segment this time is around the full moon that we just had yesterday in Libra. I've been feeling the effects for the last few months, just not only because of this crazy administration, but also just because of all the planets going on. Mercury was just in retrograde, Venus was just in retrograde. And it just seems like the energy's been crazy the last few weeks, months, this year, dare I say?
Mhm.
So with this full moon, what are some things that we can do to try and make us feel more like ourselves, I guess, and kind of help us get through the next couple weeks and, with the start of spring, and Easter coming, what are things that we can do right now in our day to day?
So this one is not an easy one for people to do, but I feel like leaning into your emotions right now rather than trying to sweep them under the rug will be really helpful. Full moons are great for release and for endings, releasing things that you've been carrying around. Um, Moonstone or labradorite are both very effective stones at connecting us with our emotions and helping for that gentle emotional release versus big and difficult emotions. It's like, when you cry and release things and you heal, it's that kind of emotion that I'm talking about releasing. You want to get to the healing part. Okay. So grabbing one of those stones, if you have it, moonstone or labradorite.
Yeah.
The other thing would be to look around in your environment and see what feels outdated. So the concept of spring cleaning, I know we all talk about it, but I'm talking about the energy connected to the items in your house because
Mm,
clearing out space literally in your home right now after we've gone through the retrogrades and we've got this full moon energy still with us will really help because everything has a vibration, everything has an energy, and the more cluttered or stuck your environment is, the more your emotions can also get cluttered and stuck to those things that don't belong anymore. So it is a natural process right now to purge not only emotionally but physical stuff around us. And looking forward, have some plans. Bucket list. There's another catchphrase that we hear all the time, but are you really writing things down on your list? And are you taking any steps toward accomplishing those things on your bucket list? Give yourself something to look forward to after you release the emotions, after you do the healing, after you release the things in your environment. Start to look forward to something. Give yourself permission to adventure and change your life. Don't just do the go to work and come home, or if you're a person who works at home, then you're always in the same space. Don't do that. Give
mhm.
yourself something on your bucket list that you can, even if you're saving it, you skip your coffee one day a week, put that money in an envelope. That bucket list is going to be easier to accomplish, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So those are some of the things that I would um, suggest doing. I know you are an adventurous person by nature and you love travel and you love being outside. I know being outside for people is another thing that can really be good right now is to just truly connect with nature and the environment outside of four walls and a ceiling.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I have been like doing some my own spring cleaning, spring organizing, and it's like I did that subconsciously. So hearing you say like actually that's good things to do with the moving into spring and kind of releasing things from the full moon. It's like I was already doing those things subconsciously and didn't even really know why. So that makes total sense. And then, I feel like yeah, the emotion thing has been really strong. I have a moonstone ring that I have to go dig up and find and wear it for the next few days, but I also did, feel like I needed a good cry a couple days ago and put on one of my favorite TV shows called The Summer I Turned Pretty. Very emotional, and it was just what I needed to do some healthy crying. And I definitely felt better after that. So all these
That was
things,
very wise.
yes, yeah. My body
Because
just
you weren't
knew that's
crying
what
for
I
your
needed.
own stuff. You were crying to release because of the movie. It's a great way
Yes.
to transform and have that release without having to go fully into your personal emotions or replaying situations that you're carrying, but you can still let the emotion out. So very smart.
I never really thought about that. Yeah, that's such a good point is, I was able to channel the emotion from something sad that I was watching and not having to like re-experience my own emotional things in my day to day. So, yeah.
Yeah, very smart. I love it. Well, I'm so glad we could chat tonight, Steph. This is great.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you answering my random questions.
I
And
love random questions. So anytime you want to ask me more, I'm here for it.
all right, great. Well, I will think of other things, but I'm always happy to sit down and have a nice little chat. So I hope the full moon and, the start of the week goes well for you.
Thank you. Same for you too, honey. All right, you
Yes,
take care.
yes. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.